Coming up, a new bill related to transgender students passes in Iowa. And later, is COVID still a concern 3 years later?
The Iowa women's basketball team prepares for a Final Four run.
And it looks like we've got more cloudy days ahead of us in Iowa City.
This is DITV News at 8:30. Good morning, and thank you for tuning in live to DITV and KRUI 89.7 FM. I'm Ashley Wheel. Wednesday, Governor Kim Reynolds signed new legislation into Iowa law, including multiple dealing with transgender citizens in Iowa. The first bill, known as the Bathroom Bill, bans transgender students from using restrooms at public schools that don't match their sex assigned at birth. Students would be allowed to make accommodations for transgender students for single-use or unisex restrooms.
Students in, K through 12 public schools use the bathroom that corresponds with their sex rather than with their gender.
Reynolds also passed another bill which will ban numerous treatments for gender dysphoria, including puberty-blocking drugs and hormone replacement therapy. As of now, Iowa is one of 8 states throughout the country that has passed these bills into law. In addition, 20 other states are also considering these bans. And the Iowa Senate also passed an education bill on Wednesday, which would restrict what teachers are able to teach and the books students have access to. This bill would prohibit public schools from discussing gender identity and sexual orientation in kindergarten through 6th grade and restrict library materials to remove anything with descriptions of sexual activity. Along with this, the bill also requires that teachers notify parents if students express a gender identity that does not match their sex assigned at birth. The bill passing has raised concerns about the possibility of worsening the existing teacher crisis in Iowa.
Have really created a chilling effect in terms of teachers being scared to talk about certain things, teachers not wanting to teach in Iowa. We already have a big problem in terms of recruiting teachers in our state. There's a shortage of teachers.
Ultimately, this bill aims to put parents fully in charge of their students' education. And nearly 3 years ago, now the COVID-19 pandemic shut the world down. Today, however, it seems like a different story. But has the virus really gone away? I got the chance to talk to students and doctors on what they think the current state of COVID-19 is today.
Current state of COVID-19, I don't even think about it. Not really a thing. I don't really see anybody wearing masks, anybody doing anything different than what we were doing a few years ago.
Despite low case numbers and low concern, COVID-19 is still around.
Yeah, I think it's here to stay forever. With any luck at all, it may even get a little less virulent and be more closer to the common cold than it is to influenza right now. Colds still put people in the hospital, especially small babies at times, or people with bad respiratory illness there, and it's going to be like that, and it will be like that forever.
And while the virus can still be deadly, just like influenza or the common cold, the virus is much less of a concern than it has been in the past due to increased immunity through vaccines and people getting sick with the virus.
Well, current state is really, I guess the short of it is we're in a good spot. I think from the number of people that get admitted to the hospital is extremely small.
However, things are still different than how they were before COVID and even compared to last year.
I used to wear masks last year, very, very frequently, dining halls, classes, but I'm not doing that as much this year.
It still feels very different because there's still that sense of caution from some people, just not from all people.
But many are still shocked to think back on when this all started.
Kind of just seems like a fever dream, like the lockdown.
Yeah, it's hard to believe it's been 3 years.
It's amazing when to look back on it and the resiliency of the staff to get through this, but it's changed everybody that's practiced medicine in the hospital. Their view of illness and death, this pandemic has changed everybody.
The CDC is averaging that there is still an average of over 560 COVID deaths per day in the United States. But this is still very different than pandemic highs, which reached more than 3,000 deaths a day. And now, this weather this week has not been too bad. Let's check in with Jordan, who's live outside now. Jordan, how is it out there?
Well, Ashley, I am live inside Dwayne Banks Stadium. And with today, it's a bit chilly start to the morning with a temperature of 35. And today we'll hit a high of 51 and cloudy. And tonight we'll see a low of 30 with a 70% chance of rain. And just when you thought we escaped the winter weather, that rain will turn into snow, which will continue overnight into early Saturday morning. Looking ahead to this weekend and into early next week, we'll see highs hover around the mid-40s with lows sitting around the mid-20s to low 30s. Throughout the weekend, we'll still have to deal with the potential threat of more snow, though the chances of that after Saturday are pretty slim. Back to you, Ashley.
Thanks, Jordan, and sorry for those technical difficulties. And a threatening email was forwarded to a teacher at Northwest Junior High in Coralville, led to a temporary evacuation yesterday morning. Coralville police and the K-9 unit followed up on the bomb threat, but they could not find any threatening devices. Police did not say whether the incident was related to one of the swatting calls or fake threats that are targeting schools across the state. Classes will resume today and an investigation is underway. And continuing on with more from the Daily Iowan Special Edition, in the Iowa legislature, Iowa Republicans have introduced various bills recently to loosen gun restrictions. We have Daily Iowan politics reporter Emily Delgado live in the newsroom to tell us more. Emily, why have gun rights become such an important topic in the Iowa legislature?
Well, Ashley, legislators have been pushing for less restrictive gun laws in the state for some time now, but in November, Iowans voted to affirm the Second Amendment. This amendment allowed for the various introduction of several bills aimed to loosen gun laws in the state of Iowa. One of the bills, House File 147, would have affirmed how Iowa decides gun laws, and another bill, Senate File 543, would have allowed possession of guns in jails, vehicles, and other higher education institutions.
And what has been the Democratic response to these bills?
Yeah, well, many Democratic legislatures do believe that similar legislation will be introduced in future legislation sessions, although some of these bills that were introduced this session died during final week. Iowa City Representatives Eleanor Levin and Adam Zabner say that one key thing that they're keeping in mind while they're looking at gun-related legislation is the consequences of gun violence. Back to you, Ashley.
Thanks, Emily. And for more, you can still pick up the Daily Iowan Special Edition paper detailing more on gun violence in Iowa on newsstands now or on thedailyiowan.com. And TikTok CEO Shou Chew faced tough questions from national lawmakers yesterday over the app's data security, teen mental health, and ties to China. The hearing comes amid a looming threat of a ban on the popular video sharing platform in the U.S. The app's CEO denied any evidence of China's influence or access to user data.
Bottom line is this: American data stored on American soil by an American company, overseen by American personnel.
The CEO says that they are also taking initiatives through a firewall that protects U.S. user data from unauthorized foreign access. However, many lawmakers are still against the platform.
We do not trust TikTok will ever embrace American values for freedom, human rights, and innovation. TikTok has repeatedly chosen the path for more control, more surveillance, and more manipulation. Your platform should be banned.
Due to a high amount of users and free speech rights, some are still skeptical the full ban of the social media platform is in the near future. But now let's send it over to AJ Reister previewing a weekend full of Hawkeye sports.
Thank you, Ashley. The Hawkeyes do indeed have a busy weekend in store. The Iowa women's basketball team is in the Sweet 16 and are prepared to take on the Colorado Buffaloes for a chance at the Elite Eight.
I think anytime you are one of 16 teams that get to keep playing basketball, it's pretty special, but you know, it wasn't like a huge party or celebration in the locker room. This wasn't our goal. It's one of the steps to reaching our goal, but it's not the end all be all for us. You know, this is the first weekend and it's done with, and now we have a second weekend, and we hope there's a third weekend too. So, you know, our next step is going to Seattle and being prepared to play there.
Like everybody, we're just thrilled to be still, you know, playing basketball this time of the year. We're healthy. I know some people are wondering about Hannah. We're healthy. We're feeling good. We know that Colorado is going to be a really tough challenge. Their defense is very, very good.
If we want to, you know, win 2 games here, we're going to need everybody. It can't just be a couple people. It's got to be, you know, all 5 players on the floor at one time, whether that shows up in the box score or not. You know, you need to be dialed in and do your role. You know, we've seen about every defense you can throw at us. Jump, zone, man-to-man, pressure, full court, every press. So I think finding confidence in, you know, we've been successful versus basically every defense. It's just executing who we are.
If the Hawks are able to pull off the victory, they will be set to play the winner of Ole Miss and Louisville. The big game starts tonight at 6:30 on ESPN. And last night, the men's Sweet 16 began. Kansas State and Michigan State put up a phenomenal game that needed overtime. Behind Marquise Newell's 20 points and 19 assists, the Wildcats prevailed, winning 98-93. And Arkansas's magic moment ran out when the UConn Huskies won in a blowout, 88-65. And Florida Atlantic's surprising run continued last night against Tennessee. The Owls came out on top 62-55, but the marquee matchup between Gonzaga and UCLA lived up to the hype. The back-and-forth game went down to the wire with the Bulldogs coming out on top 79-76. And the Iowa baseball team is preparing for another home series. DITV sports reporter Aiden Wirtz is live from Duane Banks Field with more on the Hawkeyes' upcoming series.
Thanks, AJ. The Hawks have been on fire lately, running on a 6-game win streak after beating Grandview on Wednesday by a score of 12-1. With an overall record of 16-3, this is the Hawks' best start to a season since 1939. Heading into a 3-game series this weekend versus Western Michigan, players like Kyle Huckstorf will lead the charge for Iowa. Huckstorf has a batting average of 400 and has 4 home runs on the year. As a team, Iowa has 8 players batting over 300 with a team average of 297. Iowa's opponents are only hitting 206 from the plate thanks to pitchers Will Christopherson and Brody Brecht. Christopherson has only allowed 1 hit in 9.1 innings pitched, maintaining an ERA of 0. Meanwhile, Brecht has an ERA of 2.74. Going into this series, the Hawks will need to keep the strikes humming and the bats coming if they want to take down the Broncos from Kalamazoo. Back to you in the studio, AJ.
Thanks, Aiden. And the Iowa softball team is heading to College Park, Pennsylvania for a 3-game series against Penn State. The Hawks are currently 18-11 on the year and are taking on a tough Nittany Lions team who are currently atop the Big Ten. The key for Iowa in this series will be offense. The Hawks have been solid at the plate this season, averaging around 5 runs a game, but Penn State boasts an impressive pitching rotation, which has only given up 39 runs all season. That could make the series interesting. Fans can catch all the action on Big Ten Plus with the first pitch starting at 4 p.m. today. And ahead of Iowa's regional matchup in the NCAA championships, senior Jerquavia Henderson was named to the Women's Collegiate Gymnastics Association's second-team All-American on the floor. Henderson had an impressive senior campaign where she posted a 9.945 national qualifying score for her floor routine, along with scoring a 9.9 or higher in 9 competitions this season. Along with that, she came away with a share of the Big Ten championship title. Henderson joins Hawkeye gymnasts of the past Alexis Madej and Lauren Guerin, who also came away with All-American honors. Come back on Monday for the results of a busy Hawkeye weekend. Now back to you, Ashley.
Thanks. And the world's first majority 3D printed rocket had its first successful launch on Wednesday. Terran 1, built by Relativity Space, did not reach orbit but is still considering the launch successful due to it reaching the max Q stage before an upper stage malfunction. This launch was able to gather data that will help further improve their rockets. Relativity Space is currently working on a Terran R rocket, which will be a larger, fully reusable launch vehicle. And thank you for tuning in to DITV News and listening to KRUI 89.7 FM. Have a great day. I'm Ashley Wheel.